Alright guys, been a couple of questions raised by several people in probably the last 6 weeks around becoming a digital nomad. I think it's a bigger picture than that though. This is why I've sort of done the video, because it's a bit like, as you're probably well aware, I've just bought that new place in Spain. But part of that is when I'm working I keep my costs down as such. I rent a room. I don't rent another house. I don't rent anything that's an excessive expenditure if I don't need it. Because when I'm working, I'm either here, restaurant or work. That's it. And for years I was in hotels because work paid for the hotels, because I was travelling around the UK often. Well, UK or Middle East. So my costs were pretty much covered by others. Which meant anything you earned, you banked. So the first thing I want to say is, best advice is accumulate. Because I can understand, once you hit a certain point in life, you start spending more because you know the candle's starting to burn down a bit, so you might as well enjoy it. But if you're trying to get ahead, then I would recommend being less wasteful and more thrifty with your expenditures. Get stuff you need rather than stuff you want, and focus on where you want to go. So for example, if you can see you can get a good salary jump by taking another course, it's probably better to spend money on that course than it is to spend it on a new iPad or something that costs £1,000 or whatever, that has no real value beyond it looks good. So that's one of the first things I would say, is just be more focused on where you spend your money. Another thing I started doing a long time ago was I accumulate for the future. So for example, I always have a bulk load of cash that's banked for emergencies, so that for example, like in this COVID situation, if I couldn't work for a year, do you know what? I could sit at home for a year. But even though I sat at home, doesn't mean I've stopped working, because I'll still be trying to generate cash, but it means that all the bills and everything else will be paid until we come out of that whole pandemic situation, which we have virtually zero control over. The point being is you can get yourself out of any situation. And as you go on, you might find that you can accumulate that past a year's worth of money and end up with about 5 years worth of money, at which point even better, because then you can start looking at maybe doing other stuff that you wish you could do, you know, because if you've got the capital built there, you can move on to different things. So I'm going to move off the financial bit for a minute, because I could go on about that for an hour. The other side is you need to focus on, if you want to be a digital nomad, what can you do? And one of the key things to that is start it today. Don't get on a plane and head to the Philippines and go, right, I'm going to start now. There is plenty of stuff you could already be doing. People per hour, freelancer, Upworks, I've all got stuff on there that you can be doing. And don't expect that you have to be doing cheap rates. You don't. I mean, if you're good at something, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I hate people that are incompetent. I hate people that don't do the job on time. I hate people that don't complete the most simple of tasks. So you'll find plenty of cheap people on there, but it's about the deliverables. You know, for example, if I gave you a chunk of my work to do so I could go off skiing for a fortnight, guess what? The cost isn't that important. The fact that I come back and it's complete to the same standard or better than I normally do is the expectation. So I would say you want to start on those now. Try and get stuff for Saturdays, try and get stuff for Sundays, try and get stuff in your spare time and get it working. Get some referrals, get it built up. There's some people already on here on this channel that do that themselves. Now, on top of my normal work, I still did over £10,000 in Upwork last year. Just to throw that in the mix, I still keep my hand in. I did people per hour. I generated some money on there as well. But I just want to say there is money in there, but I don't really want to get into my personal finances too much, but I still operate on other websites. Now, YouTube is another revenue stream, but it is saturated, and it's saturated in a lot of poor niches, because you can have a high subscriber rate and high cash flow rate. Low cash flow. So for example, doing videos on the Philippines, wandering around as a blogger, has a limited audience because there's that many people already doing it. But if you were actually doing high quality videos around the beaches, all that sort of stuff, they seem to get a ridiculous amount of views. The same as if you can do videos from a different perspective, they get more views because they're more interesting. It's a different demographic. There's a lot of stuff out there that look at what people are doing, see who's doing well and see who's doing not, and what's the difference. Because you'll find, because I was talking to, ages ago, I was talking to somebody about a character from the Philippines that went to a lot of places and just went on ranting all the time. And I'm like, right, you're in Palawan, do some videos, get a drone footage of the beaches, all that sort of stuff. Don't have to open your mouth. Those videos will get more views, more income, more interest than the stuff he was ranting about. But instead, there wasn't one tourism video that he did. Now, don't get me wrong, market is saturated, but the point is, if you do it right, do a bit of learning how to do video editing, etc., and improve on it, you'll find you can generate cash. Now, to be fair, I can't be bothered. I've got enough stuff I already do, and it's something I would like to do. It's just that I haven't got the time or inkling to spend that amount of time at the minute. I do like the videos when they're done well, but at the same time, I'm more interested in the technology. That's my downfall, but I know it. But there is opportunity to do good quality videos around these things, which also means you could then pull in some sponsors even, although in the Philippines it's a bit hit and miss, depends on your contacts and relationships with people. But there's opportunities there, definitely. So YouTube has multiple opportunities, whether you go down a technical route, sitting doing videos on Excel, on new mobile phones, all this sort of stuff. There's bits and pieces you can pick up. But like I said, look around to understand what works. Because it's a bit like my Spanish channel. My Spanish channel generates as much money as this channel does. Now, I'm not going to discuss the amount, but is it worth it if I went out there and focused just for the video content? The answer is no. I do the videos to give a sort of my perspective on life and what works for me, because I'm quite happy to do that. It's not about the revenue. I don't even have the revenue, to be fair. I actually send it to the Philippines and that keeps the bills ticking over there. But the point being is, it wasn't about cash. It was about an interest. Now, don't get me wrong, you get spin-offs. If I started pushing more onto the retail market, so the housing market, and going down the route of construction and other bits and pieces on the Spanish market on the other channel, I'm sure I could drive that and make it profitable. But I haven't got the interest in it. I hate focused sales. I like going into the nitty gritty, like our new windows, they're in marble. What's the thickness of marble? What type of marble is it? What's the difference between them? What's the difference between marble, stone, granite, all this sort of stuff. But you know what? Not a lot of people like watching those types of videos, unless you're buying windows. But the point is, there's other things you can do out there. So you may already have things that you can do that you haven't even thought about, and that's what I say. just have a look around, see what other people are doing. If you go in a certain place, what people are doing there, what's your skill sets? What have you got that you can do on YouTube, or even, because let's just say you're an Excel wizard. As an Excel wizard, you've got work and Upworks, freelancer and other stuff that you can market within your YouTube videos. You can also take on private consultancy for stuff, because if you can get the people seeing the tutorials and they're going, you know what, it's going to be easier to give to this guy to do. There's an opportunity, and you're generating it, because once you put the video up, you may get your 2 pence a week or whatever, but at the same time you may get $5,000 worth of work off somebody who watched your video. There is opportunities everywhere. So we'll move off the video stuff. The next one is networking. Networking is often underrated, but it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. I'm not doing a buy my book type thing here, because as soon as I said powerful, I knew I was going into that land. The reality is, you don't know who's connected to who. So if you're doing an Excel thing and it sort of pays off, because you bump into somebody at a party, somebody's setting up a new business, they don't know how to they want something to manage their stock intake or whatever it is, they go, oh, Joe does that, he's really good. And you end up with those connections. In the same way, you may come across somebody that's good at something else, and you put them in touch with somebody else, they then owe you a favour, and you know, the network expands. So networking extremely important. A lot more important than people give it value for, but you will see business conferences and all this sort of stuff that go on, and that's what it is. It's a power network. People integrating in the same business elements, people selling their wares, buying their wares, interconnecting with other companies, seeing what other things are on the market. It's networking. LinkedIn is the business hub of that. Now, there is other things you can do on LinkedIn, but I'm not getting into that today. But LinkedIn is another good source of finding the right people. There's a few people I know that make a full-time living on finding the right people for other people. But networking is extremely important. Put yourself out there. And bearing in mind, if you are going to be a digital nomad, you are a business person, and part of good business is putting yourself out there, because no one else will. If you're sat with 2 other people that will put themselves out there and integrate with other people and put themselves in front of other people while you're thinking people will come to me, guess who's going to get all the business? That's the bit you've got to take on. The networking is so important to get you out there. Now, one of the guys was looking at moving out to the Philippines. He's quite young. So this is a slightly different perspective in the sense of, with your age group, I think you're right. You know, if you're 19 to 30, I think you would get a better perspective on life by going out to the Philippines for 6 months, a year or whatever. Even if you didn't do well out there and come back, your perspective will change. I think that it's very beneficial to open your eyes, because it has a lot of long-term changes. You're seeing the world from a different perspective than the one you're used to, and that is important, because if you have that change and you recognize it, I mean, one of the things you recognize in the Philippines is you're on your own. You're there to make the money. You're there to look after yourself. You're there to generate business and whatever. Now, I'm not getting into the bits of this legislation around Philippines. Plenty of people understand it, but I'm talking as a digital nomad. Nearly everything's offshore anyway, so I'm not getting into people whining about it. But the point being is, you're out there on your own, standing on your own 2 feet, and you'll find the perspective of the populace is very different. Meeting attractive women is so easy as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is your prime objective, because it shouldn't be, but it doesn't hurt. but the ability to do things off your own bat and on your own terms, I think that's good to do. And I wish I'd done it younger, because I pretty much build my life around the changes I made probably 16 years ago, because my perspective changed. I knew I wasn't happy with the current setup, so I did something about it, and I haven't looked back. There's no regrets on it. Don't get me wrong, there's stuff there was no win-win. You know, if I stayed in that same environment, I was just unhappy and whatever. It wasn't like I was feeling depressed or any of that sort of stuff. It was just that I thought there was more to life. But there is certain things that there's no way to change it. You know, but we're not talking about me today, but I'm saying going out there for a year, I think you'll change your perspective. You'll see things through different eyes. You can see that you can form a small company. You can see you can stand on your own 2 feet. Key one is keep your costs down. Don't think you've had a client come in and he's giving you $4,000 worth of work for this month and all this sort of stuff, and go out and splurge it, because you might not get nothing for 3 months afterwards. This is why it's key. You know, it's like me. I'm resting up at the minute because busy with Spain, then come back to the UK, horrendously busy with work. So like today, I'm doing YouTube videos. I'm not touching my work today. I'm chilling out. But at the same time, I'm quite happy to do these types of things, because I still think that's being productive without being overtaxing. But you're always looking for the next thing. You know, it's a bit like the COVID situation. Look at these test centres. I'm not getting onto that today, unless you want to watch my other channel. I can explain that was a complete farce. I'm asking for a full refund on that, because I had to have a test when I come back to the UK, and it just seems that, I'm not saying it's scammy, I'll just say that it almost feels like it was one of Boris's nephews or something set it up and just made a complete hash of it, because it just wasn't ready to go. But anyway, like I said, not talking about that today. So I would say go out there. I would say keep an emergency budget. Keep a budget for accumulate up to a year. And then always keep it at that level. Never let it drop below. It's right to go above, but you should never go below, because that's where things can drastically go wrong. You can end up stuck in a country, you could have no support to get back out, all that sort of stuff. So always keep that budget there. I think that's the key ones, to be fair. I suppose the final one would be, it goes back to networking. Seek out other people for mentoring advice, and people have done it, seen it, been there, experienced it, and see if they can help you, because there may be stuff that they're doing, they can throw you away, because, you know, it's a bit like doing sales calls. I hate doing sales calls, but there's a few people I know that would say, have you got any work? They would throw it to me and say, yeah, I've got this client who wants us to dial this, and I've done it. You know, I've sold stuff. I've sold software. I've sold solar panels, credit card processing, all sorts. That's what built the call centre up from scratch. That's the point. You've got to seek the opportunities out, because a lot of them aren't straight in front of you. You sometimes just have to engage with people and find that they've got an issue and give them a solution. Some of it is really that simple, because if they've got the solution, or if you've got the solution and it's the right price, why wouldn't they? Anyway guys, I hope that helps. I hope that answers your questions. Thanks for watching.